Ella's Study Notes, where advanced English meets real-life magic.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Ella's Study Notes. So, grab your notebooks because today we're diving into some fantastic English vocabulary and sentence structures, all with a little help from some amazing creatures that look like they literally jumped right out of the Pokémon world. All right, let's just get right into it. Take a look at this little guy on the page. I mean, come on, doesn't it look exactly like Pikachu? Believe it or not, this is a real animal called the Pikachu nudibranch. And that's what we're studying today, these incredible sea slugs called nudibranchs, who are basically real-life Pokémon. So here's our study plan. First, we'll cover the basics of what these things are. Then we'll study their special abilities, their superpowers really, to learn some new words. After that, we'll do a little compare and learn by breaking down a tricky sentence. And finally, I'll share my key takeaways for you to jot down in your own notebooks. You ready? Let's start with Section 1, the basics. It's always a good idea to get to know our topic before we really dive into all the fun details. First things first, how do we even say this word? It can look a little tricky. It's pronounced nudibranch. Let's try it together. Nudibranch. The name itself is actually a huge clue. It comes from Latin and Greek words that mean naked and gills. Why? Because their breathing organs are on the outside of their bodies. How cool is that? So what are they exactly? Well, nudibranchs are a type of sea slug. They're part of a bigger group called mollusks, which means, yep, they're related to animals like octopuses, snails, and clams. And get this, there are over 3,000 different species out there. That is a huge variety to discover. You know this line, right? The source material we're looking at today starts with this famous catchphrase, and it's just the perfect way to introduce our theme, because we're going to be choosing a few of these nudibranchs and comparing them to their Pokémon lookalikes to help us learn. All right, let's move on to the really fun stuff. In this section, we're going to study their abilities, their real-life superpowers, and learn some absolutely fantastic new vocabulary along the way. Okay, our first example is the Willan's Chromodoris. Just look at it there, next to the Pokémon Dratini. The resemblance is just wild, right? But what's really fascinating is its special ability. So its ability is called a smell shield, which is awesome, and it introduces some great vocabulary for talking about defense. The keywords you're going to want to write down are release, toxic, and stay away. And hey, stay away is a great example of a phrasal verb, which is just a verb combined with another word to make a totally new meaning. You see them all the time in English. Now, let's put those words into action. The source explains that this little guy releases toxic chemicals into the water so that any predators can sense them and, you guessed it, stay away. It's a perfect example of how these words describe a defense mechanism. Okay, next up we have the white Tritoniopsis. It looks a lot like coral, and its Pokémon twin is Corsola, which is also based on coral. This one has a superpower that's actually really important for the whole environment it lives in. Its ability is invasive eater, and this brings us to some really key environmental vocabulary. Let's add these to our notes. Invasive species, habitat, and threatened. These are super useful words if you're ever talking about nature or conservation. So what exactly does invasive species mean? The source gives us a great definition. Living things that show up in a habitat where they don't normally live and cause harm in their new home. Basically, this nudibranch is a little hero because it eats an invasive coral, which helps protect its entire habitat. Now that we've got some new vocabulary under our belts, let's level up. In this section, we're going to take a longer, more complex sentence from the text and just break it down part by part. This is such a great skill for improving your reading comprehension. All right, let's look at our sentence. That's similar to the way that the Spanish dancer hangs out in coral caves to stay safe from predators like crabs and fish. Now, I know it might look a little long, but don't worry. We're going to break it down piece by piece, and it'll all make perfect sense. So, let's start with the first chunk. That's similar to the way that. This is a fantastic phrase you can use anytime you want to compare two things. It just sounds so much more descriptive than only saying it's like. This is definitely one for your notebook. Now for the middle part, the Spanish dancer hangs out in coral caves. The key phrase here is hangs out. This is a super common, casual phrasal verb. It just means to spend time or to relax in a certain place. It makes your English sound way more natural and friendly. And for the final piece, to stay safe from predators. This part of the sentence tells us why the Spanish dancer is hanging out in the caves. It explains the purpose of the action. Using to plus a verb is a really common way to explain the reason for doing something. Wow, we have covered a lot. So, for our final section, let's summarize the most important things we've learned today. These are the key takeaways that I would definitely be writing down in my own study notes. So, here's the gold. 3 all-purpose sentence patterns from our reading that you can use in so many situations. First, it turns out. This one's perfect for introducing a surprising or interesting fact. Second, the one we just studied, similar to the way that, for making those great comparisons. And third, this allows the animal to, which is perfect for explaining a function or purpose. You know, like, this allows the animal to release toxic chemicals. See? You can find an English lesson in pretty much any topic. So, here is my challenge for you. What other real-life Pokémon can you find out there in the animal kingdom? I want you to try and describe one in the comments below, and use one of the sentence patterns we learned today. I really can't wait to read your answers. Thanks for studying with me.